Greetings and welcome to SpaceWeek Live on this episode 136 on this Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. I want to thank you all for coming, and I wanted to start out with some photos that I took last night. Got home from dropping my kid off at their mother's house and noticed that the sky was pretty clear and the air was quite crisp. So I grabbed my new camera and, you know what, let me take off this music there. Okay. Grabbed my new camera with the 600 millimeter zoom lens that I am now able to use because I updated its firmware, and took some photos. So let's take a look. Okay, that didn't work. Let me try manually. So this, I guess this is a star signature. This strange squiggle is the result of a not entirely steady tripod as I attempted to take some astrophotos last night. Obviously, using the shutter release button is not the best technique. I found that I can keep the camera a little steadier if I tap the screen, like the preview screen on the back of the camera. It introduces less vibration. I could do even better if I used like a 2-second delay, which I need to figure out because I haven't fully explored the capabilities of my new camera. But this, I think, was Mars. But yeah, it was a little bit wiggly. But I wanted to show it to you because it's funny. This here actually is Mars, for sure. And it's pretty fuzzy, can't see much. I found that it's very difficult to get precise focus on points of light. Like if all you have is a point of light, whether it's a star or a planet, getting a precise focus on that is really, really difficult. At least with my lens. You know, the focus control is it's just a ring around the lens, and with my crummy vision and you know, with the awkward angle of looking through the viewfinder or the limited size that you can't really zoom in too far on the just on the pop-out screen. You can't really see if you're getting a sharp focus until you take a picture and then zoom in on the picture. Well, you can't really. That's not a very effective technique, and I've got to work on that. But Next up is the Pleiades, which is much, much nicer. So here we have the Pleiades star cluster. And once you can see sort of a lot of stars, it becomes difficult actually to tell which ones are the constellation or the star cluster you're looking for. I mean, you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then it becomes difficult to tell what are the 6th and the 7th stars of the Pleiades cluster, because there are a lot of other stars around. Now, one benefit of the new camera over my old camera is that the light sensitivity is much, much greater. So, whereas the old camera, if I cranked the ISO or the light sensitivity to 1600 or so, the picture would be unusably grainy. It would look terrible. 3200, don't even try it. But the new camera, I can actually boost the ISO all the way to 25,700, I think it is, and the graininess is not too bad. I mean, it is grainy, but it's much more light sensitive, which allows me to take shorter exposures, which makes a big difference at night. Because, well, especially if you're zoomed, like if you're taking a wide shot of like the Milky Way or something, if you're in a location with dark enough skies to see the Milky Way, which I am not, I'm pretty much in the middle of the city here. But if you have dark skies and if you're taking a wide shot, then you can take, multiple seconds of exposure without really introducing star trails. But if you're zoomed in to 600 millimeters like I was, even a 2-second exposure is too long, and you're going to start to see star trails. So the shorter the exposure, the better. And finally, I turned about 90 degrees over to Jupiter and its 4 moons. 4 Galilean moons, I should say. Jupiter has lots of moons, but only 4 of them are large. And can't see any detail on the planet itself because Jupiter is much, much brighter than its moons. And by brighter, I mean it has a higher albedo. Jupiter doesn't generate its own light, of course, aside from some lightning storms. But all the light from Jupiter is reflected from the sun. But nonetheless, Jupiter is very bright, and its moons are pretty dim. And so even though you can see them naked eye, in order to resolve details of the bands of Jupiter as you're looking at it, like when you take a photograph, you need very different exposure settings for Jupiter versus its moons. And so if you basically need daylight settings to photograph Jupiter itself, and you need nighttime star-type settings to photograph its moons. Now, you can tell by the ring-like appearance of the 4 moons here that, again, we are not quite in perfect focus. The grain that you see throughout the photo is actually noise, an artifact of just the noise of the universe, the cosmic microwave background, cosmic rays, whatever. I mean, it's just basically radiostatic noise. And those aren't actually stars you're looking at for the most part. There may be some in there. But in any case, once I figured the focus out and figure out a technique for maintaining stability of the camera and maybe setting up my star tracker mount, which is a huge pain to get aligned properly, maybe I can produce some astro photos, and then by taking multiple photos and then stacking them, maybe I can produce some astro photos which are actually worth their salt, I guess. All right, so jumping into the launches of last week. Last Thursday, SpaceX launched 54 more Starlink satellites from Cape Canaveral. Hold on a sec, let me fix that audio level. Oh yeah, we have a gain Let's go down to 65.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Falcon 9. Go Starlink, go Falcon.
Vehicle 15 downrange.
Let's go back a moment and pay our respects to this this bird here that was apparently hovering in midair, watching the rocket launch. That's pretty cool. Nice shot through the cloud layers there. And here is the booster landing.
Its landing burn to start in about 20 seconds, followed shortly after by landing leg deploy, and around that same time we'll hear a call out for second engine cutoff on the second stage.
Stage 1 landing burn.
So the first stage has lit one engine to prepare for landing on our drone ship, named a shortfall of gravitas on the right-hand side of your screen.
Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And back shutdown.
Acquisition of signal to Finland.
So a few things called out there. First, Falcon 9 has landed.
On Saturday, India came to the rescue of OneWeb, launching 36 OneWeb satellites on a GSLV Mark III rocket for the first time.
सर्वप्रथम दो S200 चौपन बूस्टर का प्रज्वलन होगा.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Plus 5 seconds.
P3 tracking. P1 tracking. Off normal.
भव्य उत्थापन LVM-3 OneWeb India 1 मिशन का.
Normal liftoff and an enchantingly beautiful sight of the twin S200 boosters burning, saluted against the night sky.
An enchantingly beautiful sight, indeed. So, OneWeb has had a rocky road. Not the ice cream, but their path to their current state. Founded in the UK in 2012 with the plan to create a constellation of nearly 700 internet satellites in low Earth orbit, they had their first launch of 6 satellites in 2019 from French Guiana. In March 2020, though, having launched just 74 satellites, OneWeb filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, citing the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The timing was curious, though, because the pandemic was just getting started in March of 2020. In any case, they laid off 85% of their 500 employees. 4 months later, a consortium led by the UK government and India-based business conglomerate Bharti Global won the auction to purchase OneWeb. The sale was completed 4 months after that, in November. Launches resumed shortly thereafter and continued until February of 2022. Thus far, all OneWeb launches had been provided by Roscosmos on its Soyuz rockets, lifting off from Vostochny, Baikonur, and French Guiana. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, however, Russia retaliated against the UK's sanctions by refusing to launch more OneWeb satellites, and also refusing to refund the launch costs, which had already been paid. A batch of OneWeb satellites were literally sitting on top of the rocket on the launch pad at Baikonur, waiting to be launched. Roscosmos covered up the flags of their former international partners on the rocket: the US, UK, France, South Korea, and Japan. Only the Indian flag was left, as they have close ties to Russia and remained neutral regarding the Ukraine conflict. The then director of Roscosmos, Dmitry Rogozin, who has since been fired, tweeted, "The launchers at Baikonur decided that without the flags of some countries, our rocket would look more beautiful." OneWeb was forced to seek out alternate launch partners. They made agreements with both SpaceX and ISRO, the Indian Space Agency. 7 months after being snubbed by Roscosmos, OneWeb launches resumed on Saturday, courtesy of ISRO. Here's one of the satellite separations, sped up a bit.
अब ये घोषणा की गई कि अन्य समूह 1A, 3A, 5A तथा 7A सफलतापूर्वक अंतक्षेपित कर दिए गए हैं। अगली घटना में 2B, 4B, 6B तथा 8B नामक उपग्रहों को अंतक्षेपित किया जाना है।
So the deployment was carried out in multiple phases. They released, I think, 4 satellites at a time, multiple times. But so to date, 462 OneWeb satellites have been launched. At least 3 more launches by SpaceX and 1 by ISRO are planned for the coming months. Someone in the live chat asked why SpaceX would launch OneWeb satellites since they're a competitor service to Starlink. Regardless of what the satellites will be used for, a paying customer is a paying customer. SpaceX isn't going to turn down $67 million in revenue. Besides, if they don't launch the satellites, somebody else will. Speaking of Roscosmos, also on Saturday, a Russian Soyuz 2.1B launched from Baikonur with 3 GONETS-M communications satellites bound for low Earth orbit.
Пуск. Пуск. Зажигание. Предварительное. Промежуточное. Главное. Подъем. Прошел контакт подъема. Двигатели центрального и боковых блоков вышли в режим плавания. 10 секунд. Параметры системы управления ракетой-носителя в норме. 20 секунд. Двигатели первой и второй ступени работают.
Some great visuals and audio on the launch, as always. And here's the satellite separation.
Есть выключение двигателя третьей ступени. Есть отделение головного блока. Головной блок в составе разгонного блока «Фрегат» номер 142-503 и космических аппаратов «Гонец-М» номер 33, номер 34, номер 35 и космического аппарата «Скиф-Д» выведен на опорную орбиту.
That about wraps it up for last week. As for this week, looking ahead, on Tuesday, October 25th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern, 020 UTC on the 26th, a Russian Soyuz 2.1A will launch the Progress 82 cargo mission to the International Space Station. Also on Tuesday is a partial solar eclipse. It is a new moon, and the new moon coincides with the moon passing in front of part of, but not all of, the sun. let's see, this will be the 25th of October at 6:48 a.m. Now, I don't have a map of the where that's going to be visible from pulled up right now, but if you want to look it up, timeanddate.com is a good place to go. Just look up the partial solar eclipse on 25 October. Possibly on Thursday, October 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 0000 UTC on the 28th, a SpaceX Falcon 9 will launch more Starlinks from Vandenberg in California. The date and time on this one are all over the place. Different schedule sites are saying 8:30 Eastern on the 26th, 8 p.m. on the 27th, and 9 p.m. on the 27th. But I'm going to go with 8, and we'll just have to wait and see when SpaceX tweets about it to get the actual time. A couple hours later, starting at 10:15 p.m. Eastern on the 27th, 02:15 UTC on the 28th, is coverage of the rendezvous and docking of Progress 82 at the International Space Station. Another possible launch is on Friday, October 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 0000 UTC on the 29th. A Virgin Orbit air-launched Launcher 1 rocket will launch from the UK for the first time, with the 747 carrier plane Cosmic Girl taking off from Spaceport Cornwall in the UK. Previous Launcher 1 flights have flown from the Mojave Air and Spaceport in California. I say possible launch because the launch date and time were only listed on one of 3 schedule sites, and Virgin Orbit's own press releases only speak of an early November launch. As always, keep an eye on the calendar for changes, and subscribe and activate notifications for Raw Space so that you don't miss any live streams. The mission, dubbed Start Me Up, will include payloads from 7 customers, both government and commercial. IOD-3 Amber will provide space-based maritime domain awareness for ships. Prometheus 2 consists of 2 CubeSats from the UK Ministry of Defence's Defence Science and Technology Laboratory, or DISTAL. Circe, or Coordinated Ionospheric Reconstruction CubeSat Experiment, is part of a joint mission between DISTAL and the U.S. Naval Research Lab. Dover, by RIA Group, is a Pathfinder smallsat for resilient global navigation satellite systems like GPS. Forge Star 0 by Forge Star 0 by Space Forge of Wales is a returnable and reusable platform to enable in-space manufacturing, a capability that's been promised for ages but has been very slow to manifest. So, high hopes for that one. Aman is the country of Oman's first orbital mission, an Earth observation satellite that is the first in a planned series of smallsats, in partnership with, amongst others, Polish-based SatRev. Lastly, Stork 6 is the next entry in SatRev's Stork constellation, 2 satellites of which were previously launched by Virgin Orbit. This Virgin Orbit launch is historic in that it will actually be the first ever orbital launch to originate from British soil. The UK did build an... Oh boy. There we go. The UK did build an orbital class rocket in the 1960s called the Black Arrow, affectionately called the Lipstick Rocket, but they were all launched from Woomera in Australia, not the UK. There's also a new vertically launched orbital rocket called Prime by Orbex Space, which will launch from Space Hub Sutherland in northern Scotland. It's a small vehicle with 2 stages, carbon graphite components, and 3D printed engines similar to the Rocket Lab Electron, though rather than RP-1, it burns green biopropane, which is derived from sustainably sourced agricultural products rather than natural gas refining. Prime's maiden flight is planned for the next year or so. So that is it for the coming week. I want to take a moment to thank our channel supporters. If you're interested in expressing your appreciation for raw space and the content that this channel provides, the options are in the description and in the live chat. If I can figure out how to type it. All right, let me get to your questions, if you have any. Let's see. Chris V asks, can I use a raw cable? Can I use a cable from the Everything is raw. Can you use a cable from the camera to a laptop to view the viewfinder? Yes, I should be able to do that. I have a laptop, although I don't have it now because it's with my kid up in a different city with their mother. But yeah, if I have my laptop available, I could set it up, tether it. Theoretically, I should be able to tether it via Wi-Fi and not even use a cable, but a cable is going to be more reliable in any case. Despite the fact that we're in 2022 and everything is connected, for some reason, professional still camera connectivity is still complex. Like, it's not cooperative. It's not easy. But nonetheless, it's a very capable camera, like extremely capable camera. So, I can live with the old-fashioned method of connecting things, if it means that the camera has 45 megapixels and 25,000 ISO. All right. Rockin' Robbins 13 asks if the recent Starlink booster landing was number 141. I don't know the number, but it's number a lot. Because let's see, what did I think it was actually you, Rockin' Robbins, that said in a previous stream that SpaceX has landed more boosters than ULA has ever launched in their history, which seems very believable because SpaceX's launch cadence is quite prolific, more so than any other provider. Julian Roberts says, at least that bird didn't land on the pad to get burnt. Yeah, we've seen birds get toasty on the pads of Falcon launches and ISRO launches and various other launches. Animals are going to land where they land, especially if there's water. Like the deluge system, squirting water everywhere, they might get curious about it. And then at ignition, they don't really have time to get away. Even if they don't get burnt, the violent shock waves from the actual sound of the launch surely knocks them out, if not, kills them from the impact. But in any case, not to get too extreme here. MVM Motovlog Music asks, any Starship news? Well, I believe they stacked it. They have a new stack on the launch platform in Boca Chica. I don't have any new news on launch dates. The much anticipated and much delayed orbital test flight is not yet imminent, I don't think. But I am pretty busy with all my various obligations, and so I don't really have the bandwidth to keep close tabs on Starship development. But whenever there is a major event like a launch, I do bring those to you live. But all right, Mark Desire, do I know why the British space effort didn't seem to develop any further? I'm not sure. Now, I know Curious Droid, which is a great channel, had a very popular piece on the lipstick rocket, on the Black Arrow. And that's actually where I first heard about that rocket, because it was Britain's only orbital rocket, even though it didn't launch from there. It launched from Australia. But he may have mentioned why the UK didn't continue pursuing more orbital rockets. Maybe it was because of their northerly latitude and the fact that such a northerly launch location would only really be suitable for polar and sun-synchronous launches. Maybe it was just budgetary concerns or lack of interest. I'm not sure. But, all right. Any more questions in the live chat? I see we have a spam bot. Whenever you see those spam bots show up, if you could do the world a favor and report them, as either unwanted spam or pornography, that would be helpful, because that'll tell YouTube that this, that the bot channel is a problem. Even though I don't think they actually do anything about it. I mean, literally, there's a million bots, harassing YouTube channels every single day. So, in any case, David Gobin, he didn't tag my name, but I see his comment here. Soth has seen 3 total eclipses. First time when he was 4. Definitely something to witness. Does not sound like much, but it will take your breath away. Now, a partial eclipse is less awe-inspiring, perhaps, than a total eclipse, because you don't get to see the corona. The sun is still very bright, and you shouldn't look at it with your unshielded eyes. However, it is pretty neat to either using a projection device or looking at a picture, or using solar filters, properly rated solar filters, so that you don't hurt your eyes. It is cool to see a bite taken out of the sun. And partial solar eclipses also include annular eclipses, which is where you get the ring of fire. You get a ring around the moon, basically, because the moon passes in front of the sun, and it would be a total solar eclipse, except the moon is too far away in its elliptical orbit, which varies by about 10% on either side, apogee and perigee. And so it's a little too far away to cover the full disk of the sun. But Cheesy asks, how old am I? I am 46, I think, something like that. At a certain point, you just don't pay too much attention to that anymore. Mr. Factual Gaming. Hey man, may I ask what is going on today, as I don't really watch streams like this, even though I'm a huge fan of space. So this is SpaceWeek. It's a weekly show where I talk about what happened last week, what's happening this week, and anything else space-related that strikes my fancy, or science-related sometimes. It's just a weekly show I do to summarize the goings-on in space. I also live stream most rocket launches and streamable space events from around the world as I am able. Although, if it happens in the middle of the night, my time, chances are I'm going to skip it. Mr. Factual Gaming, how come the sun is bright even though the moon is in the way? That's a great question. So during a partial eclipse, or even during a total eclipse, before and after totality, so if there is any direct line of sight between your eye and any portion of the sun, even like a fraction of a percent of the sun, if any of the surface of the sun is directly visible, then it is too bright for you to look at without a filter. And that's because the sun is really, really freaking bright. And it emits huge amounts of ultraviolet radiation, of infrared ultraviolet radiation. And that'll hurt your eyes very quickly. It'll damage your retina. Even if you don't notice it straight away, it can do permanent damage to your eye if you're not careful. And so best policy is never look at the sun unless it is completely blocked, or unless you're using a properly rated solar filter. And I have been told that welding goggles are not sufficient but again, it depends on the rating of the glass or of the material. Yeah, so now during a total eclipse, you can look directly at the sun because the sun is totally obscured by the moon. So once those Bailey's beads appear and you see the totality happen, then of course, if you don't take off your goggles, you're not going to see anything because everything will be pitch black. Chris V says seeing an eclipse feels a little bit unnatural and uncomfortable. It absolutely does. You know what? Let me pull up, since I've got you here, let me pull up my best eclipse photo from 2017. I've shown this before, but it bears repeating because it's a good photo and it demonstrates my point. Eclipse. Here we go. This is my favorite eclipse photo. So this was taken August, what was it, the 22nd, the 17th? Anyway, in August 2017, by myself. Well, I wasn't by myself, but I took it myself. We were in Oregon at the time, and we had an excellent viewing location, even though the West Coast was being clobbered by wildfires. And in fact, after the very day of the eclipse, after the eclipse, we drove to Crater Lake because I wanted to visit Crater Lake for the first time in 30 some years. And we were choked out by smoke. Like, there were so many wildfires, we couldn't even see like a quarter mile in front of us, and we all got sick because of the smoke. Nonetheless, the eclipse happened just before the smoke rolled in, and it was absolutely incredible. But what was weird was, before the eclipse, the light, like just the sunlight around the landscape, got really weird. Like, if you haven't experienced a total solar eclipse, absolutely set aside time in your schedule and make travel plans to see one sometime, because it is surreal. It's actually disturbing because it's like something is wrong with nature. Like, the light just does not look right. And it gets cold, and the birds, like, they start flying around in weird ways. And I mean, sometimes you can see the shadow, like, flying across the landscape. It's just, and then the corona is unlike anything you've ever seen. But if you do go, look at it. Don't be glued to your devices trying to get pictures. Like, when I took this picture, I had already scripted all the photos that my camera would take. I had set up a script on my phone, tethered it to my camera, and the phone script is called Eclipse Droid, was the app that I used. And so it was automatically taking photos every 2 seconds, of totality. And I was just looking up at the sky with my own eyes. But anyway, the next eclipse is in 2024. It's going to be going from Texas up through Maine, I believe. And I need to start making plans for that, figure out where I'm going to go for my best chances of getting clear skies. Because, of course, something like 60 or 70% of the world is covered by clouds at any given time. And you want to make sure to maximize your chance of not having clouds when the eclipse passes. But in any case, all right. Any more questions? That was a nice tangent there. Thank you for that. I always enjoy talking about eclipses because they're pretty fantastic. So Mr. Factual Gaming asks if I'm going to do a stream for the eclipse. I've done a few eclipse streams, not with my own equipment, but restreaming the coverage by timeanddate.com. I don't want to do that this time because I really, I don't mind streaming launch providers like SpaceX or NASA or whatever, but I don't really want to piggyback on timeanddate.com's hard work to provide their eclipse coverage. I don't want to steal their views. And so I'm going to bow out this time. But if you do want to watch the eclipse live, I'm sure that Time and Date's YouTube channel will have a live stream. They always do. But, all right, looks like that will about wrap it up for this week. And, all right, so thank you all for coming. Keep it raw, and until next time, bye-bye.